Inspector Zix-427 adjusted his sensory membranes as he approached Earthen Delights, the newest establishment aboard Starbase Omega. His crystalline form shimmered with apprehension. This would be his first encounter with human cuisine since their species joined the Galactic Federation. The restaurant's entrance pulsed with warm light, but his atmospheric analyzer was screaming warnings about chemical compounds it couldn't even identify. Welcome to Earthen Delights. A human female with auburn hair tied back in what appeared to be some kind of containment device greeted him. I'm head chef Jasmine Patel. You must be our health inspector. Zix-427 straightened his official badge. Indeed. I am here to certify your establishment for multi-species consumption, though I must note my instruments are detecting rather concerning levels of various compounds. Jasmine laughed, a sound that made Zix's crystalline structure vibrate uncomfortably. Oh, that's probably just the curry I'm preparing for lunch service. Would you like to start with the kitchen tour? The inspector followed her through the double doors, his analyzer now emitting a high-pitched whine that would have sent most species running for the evacuation pods. The kitchen was a bustling space filled with humans in white garments, all seemingly unconcerned about handling substances that registered as military-grade irritants on his equipment. Here's our spice station. Jasmine gestured to a wall of containers that made Zix's analysis equipment short-circuit. We import directly from Earth, everything from basic black pepper to our ghost pepper collection. Ghost pepper. Zix's translator struggled with the concept. You are serving ethereal plant matter. No, Jasmine chuckled, reaching for a sealed container. It's just the name. Would you like to sample? Ni Gaetaivi. Zix's crystal structure flickered in alarm. My readings indicate that substance has a chemical potency comparable to riot control agents. Oh, this is just the mild version, Jasmine said casually, returning the container to its shelf. You should see what we use in our extra spicy challenge dishes. Just then, a commotion erupted from the dining area. A vegetarian, a species known for their stoic demeanor, burst through the doors, their typically grey skin glowing bright purple. Water. Need water, they bellowed. Oh dear, Jasmine sighed. They never listen when we tell them water only makes it worse. R.A.J. Bring some milk to table 7. This is a common occurrence. Zix asked, watching in horror as another server rushed past with a white liquid. At least 3 times per shift. Jasmine nodded, though the Andromenes seemed to love it. Something about their multiple stomachs. Zix's documentation appendage was frantically recording violations of at least 17 different safety protocols. Madam, I must inform you that several of your ingredients are classified as controlled substances in most civilized systems. Really? Jasmine brightened. We should add that to our menu descriptions. Great marketing angle. Before Zix could process this alarming response, his sensors detected a new threat. A human chef was heating something in a wok, causing flames to leap dramatically toward the ceiling. Don't worry about Kumar, Jasmine said, noting Zix's distress. That's just our tableside fanbase service. The customers love a good show. You intentionally ignite your food products. Zix's crystalline structure was now vibrating at a frequency that would have shattered lesser materials. Of course. Wait until you see our dessert menu. We've got this amazing dish called Baked Alaska. It's ice cream surrounded by flaming meringue. Zix's processor struggled to compute. You set frozen nutritional substances on fire. Among other things, Jasmine grinned. Now about that taste test. Later that day, Zix 427 submitted his preliminary report to Galactic Health and Safety. URGENT. Human culinary practices represent unprecedented threat to galactic stability. Species demonstrates complete disregard for chemical safety protocols, regularly ignites food items for entertainment, and appears immune to substances classified as biochemical weapons by most civilized standards. Recommend immediate investigation by Galactic Security Council. Additional note: despite all logical reasoning, establishment appears to be extremely popular with multiple species. Have attached medical waivers for review, personal addendum, request transfer to deep space assignment, preferably far from any human cooking establishments. As Zix sent the report, he could still hear the vegetarian from earlier, now enthusiastically ordering seconds of whatever had caused their initial distress. Perhaps, he reflected, humans weren't the only species he needed to worry about. In the kitchen, Jasmine reviewed the day's reservations, noting with satisfaction that they were fully booked for the next 3 cycles. Raj, she called out, better start preparing extra ghost pepper sauce. The Andromean ambassador is bringing their entire diplomatic corps tonight. The galaxy, it seemed, was developing quite an appetite for danger. The Grand Chamber of the Galactic Council hummed with nervous energy as representatives from 17 species argued about the human culinary crisis. Emergency force fields had been installed around the chamber after 3 delegates spontaneously developed hiccups that caused them to temporarily phase through solid matter, an apparent side effect of sampling human buffalo wings. High Chancellor Vexate, a towering figure composed entirely of shifting geometric patterns, called for order by releasing a burst of calming pheromones. This emergency session will now commence. We are here to address the alarming reports regarding human food establishments spreading across our territories. Inspector Zix 427's crystal structure still exhibited occasional rainbow patterns, a lingering effect from his inspection of earthen delights. Honourable Council, my findings indicate that humans are operating what can only be described as recreational chemical warfare facilities under the guise of restaurants. The human representative, Ambassador Thomas Rodriguez, suppressed a smile. With all due respect, we simply enjoy flavorful food. Nothing more sinister than that. Flavorful. A gelatinous Morphon delegate quivered indignantly. Your species intentionally cultivates plants that evolved to prevent consumption. The compound capsaicin literally evolved as a defense mechanism. And it's delicious, Rodriguez replied cheerfully, especially when fermented with our special blend of bacteria. 3 security drones short-circuited at the mere description. Order. Chancellor Vexate pulsed rapidly. We have asked Chef Jasmine Patel to demonstrate these cooking methods under controlled conditions. The chamber has been equipped with quantum-reinforced ventilation systems. Jasmine wheeled in a mobile cooking station, causing several delegates to inch their hover platforms backward. Today, I'll be preparing a simple stir-fry with just a touch of Sichuan peppercorns. Define touch, Zix demanded, his crystal structure already beginning to vibrate. Oh, just enough to cause a slight numbing sensation, Jasmine said, heating her wok. Nothing like our usual recipe. The Xerillian delegate's tentacles curled in horror. You intentionally consume substances that cause neural impairment. It's more of a pleasant tingle, Rodriguez explained. Like a massage for your tongue. Your species case out oral message via toxic SAGBS. The Xerillian's universal translator shifted to all caps in distress. As Jasmine began cooking, Various atmospheric sensors around the chamber started wailing. A small delegation of maintenance robots attempted to evacuate themselves. The Morphin delegate accidentally divided into 3 separate entities out of sheer anxiety. Now, the key to good Sichuan cooking is the wokai, Jasmine explained, causing a controlled flame to leap from her cooking surface. Several delegates screamed. One attempted to call their insurance provider. "She's weaponizing plasma," someone shouted. No, that's just for flavor," Rodriguez assured them. "Watch what happens when she adds the garlic, Garlic. Zix's crystal structure chimed in alarm. The substance that can penetrate quantum-sealed containers. It's also great for cardiovascular health, Jasmine added helpfully, tossing several cloves into the wok. 3 different species of plants in the chamber's decorative gardens suddenly evolved defensive mechanisms. Chancellor Vex 8 struggled to maintain order as the demonstration continued. The situation wasn't helped by the fact that several younger delegates had started recording the proceedings for their social media feeds, adding captions like, "Humans are wild," and "Watch these Deathworlders literally play with fire." "Now for just a hint of chili oil," Jasmine announced. "Kaunte meant the Riishi," shrieked an automated safety system that hadn't even been installed yet. The resulting chaos took 3 hours to sort out, during which time the Morphin delegates' 3 parts had developed distinct personalities and were now arguing amongst themselves about proper spice levels. In light of these demonstrations, Chancellor Vex 8 finally announced the Council must establish new protocols for human culinary establishments. "Ambassador Rodriguez, would your people accept certain restrictions?" "What kind of restrictions?" Rodriguez asked cautiously. "Perhaps a limit on heat units per dish, a ban on intentional food ignition, mandatory quantum containment fields around all preparation areas." Rodriguez tried to look diplomatic. "Chancellor, with all due respect, humans have been cooking this way for thousands of years. It's part of our cultural heritage. Besides," he added with a slight smile, "I couldn't help but notice that despite their obvious terror, several delegates have been quietly asking Chef Petal for reservations." It was true. Even as the emergency decontamination protocols activated for the 3rd time that day, a line had formed near Jasmine's cooking station. The Cerulean delegate was attempting to discreetly sample the stir-fry while pretending to collect evidence. Perhaps, Chancellor Vexate conceded, "we could instead focus on improving warning systems and safety protocols while allowing human establishments to continue operations. Though I must insist on hazard pay for all inspectors." Agreed, Zix chimed weakly from his corner, where his crystalline form had developed an interesting new facet pattern from proximity to the Sichuan peppercorns. As the council session adjourned, Jasmine checked her communication device. "Ambassador, we might need to discuss expanding the restaurant. We've just gone viral across 3 galaxies, and our reservation system has crashed from the demand." Rodriguez grinned. Who knew that being classified as a potential biochemical threat would be such good publicity? In the background, the Morphin delegates' 3 parts had finally reached consensus and were enthusiastically booking a table for next week's Extra Spicy Challenge night. The galaxy, it seemed, was developing not just an appetite for danger, but an addiction to it. "Status report," demanded Director Krell of the Galactic Health Monitoring Station, their eye stalks swiveling to observe the holographic displays surrounding them. Each screen showed a different incident related to human culinary expansion across the galaxy. "Sir, we've documented 147 new cases of unusual effects in the past solar cycle alone," reported Chief Medical Officer Enx 9. their tentacles nervously manipulating data streams. The situations are becoming increasingly unpredictable. The largest display showed a Pralaxian businessman floating near the ceiling of Earth and Delight's newest branch on Station Beta 7. According to the incident report, he had consumed something called Thai red curry and developed temporary anti-gravity abilities. The humans claim this is normal, Enx9 continued. Chef Patel's exact words were, "Some dishes just hit different." Hit different. Krell's eye stalks twisted in confusion. They're acknowledging these are attack foods. No, sir. Apparently, it's a human idiom. Though we're still trying to understand why their language references physical violence when describing enjoyable experiences. Another screen showed a group of Zelaxians who had developed the ability to glow in various colors after sampling something called buffalo wild wings with ghost pepper sauce. They had immediately formed a performance art troupe and were now touring the Outer Rim worlds. What about the hive mind incident? Krell asked, dreading the answer. Enx9's tentacles rippled anxiously. The Margolian collective consumed a large quantity of something called extra spicy ramen during their diplomatic summit. They're typically separate consciousness matrices. Synchronized. Synchronized how? They've formed a food review blog, sir. It's already the most popular media channel in 3 sectors. They're calling themselves the Spice Must Flow and rating human restaurants on a scale of mild to transcendent. Krell watched as another screen showed a crystalline entity, similar to Inspector Zix 427, sampling a dish called vindaloo. Their usually transparent form had begun refracting light in patterns that accidentally created small rainbows. Several nearby plants had evolved the ability to photosynthesize in 7 new wavelengths. And the quantum physics violations. Still occurring, sir. The Andromean Science Academy is particularly interested in something humans call grandmother's secret recipe. They claim it violates several fundamental laws of thermodynamics, yet somehow produces what they describe as comfort food. Just then, an alert flashed across all screens. Enx9's tentacles went rigid with alarm. Sir, the Hivularians have just discovered human condiments. The psychically sensitive Hivularians. Krell's eye stalks crossed in horror. What happened? They put something called sriracha on their standard nutrient paste. The entire colony is now broadcasting cooking shows directly into the minds of nearby species. Krell watched as another monitor showed civilians on 3 different space stations spontaneously developing cravings for spicy food, complete with detailed recipe knowledge they couldn't possibly possess. The humans? Krell asked wearily. Chef Patel has offered to host a cross-cultural cooking workshop to, quote, channel their newfound abilities more productively. Ambassador Rodriguez is already drafting a cultural exchange program. Another alert pinged. A group of quantum entities had discovered coffee. They were now experiencing caffeine jitters across multiple dimensions simultaneously. Sir, Enx9 ventured, there's something else. The Galactic Economic Council reports that trade in human spices has exceeded the GDP of several star systems. We're seeing the emergence of spice smugglers. Spice smugglers. Yes, sir. A Jovian freighter was caught yesterday with a hidden compartment full of something called Dave's Insanity Sauce. The crew claimed they could get better prices for it than antimatter on some worlds. Krell's eye stalks drooped in resignation, and our containment efforts. Largely unsuccessful, sir. Every attempt to regulate human restaurants has only increased their popularity. The warning signs we mandated are being treated as recommendations. Some species are treating them like challenge ratings. They watched as a screen showed a vulcanite, whose species normally consumed only pure energy, enthusiastically devouring something called Carolina Reaper wings while its friends cheered. The being's usual plasma form had taken on interesting new properties that were making nearby quantum physicists very excited. The human's response. Chef Patel has started a certification program for what she calls xenogastronomic safety. Ambassador Rodriguez says it's better to guide the process than fight it. They're even developing special menus based on each species' unique reactions. A final alert flashed. The Mongolian food blog had just posted a review of something called Nashville hot chicken. 3 solar systems were already experiencing unusual migration patterns as various species rushed to try it. Perhaps, Krell mused, watching the chaos unfold across their monitors, we've been thinking about this wrong, instead of treating it as a crisis. Sir, schedule a meeting with Ambassador Rodriguez and Chef Patel. If we can't beat them, maybe we should eat them. Krell paused. Their food. I meant eat their food. This human language is infectious. As if to punctuate the point, another alert showed a colony of traditionally non-verbal crystalline entities who had started using human food idioms after exposure to something called wasabi. They were now describing everything from quantum mechanics to poetry in terms of spaceness levels. The galaxy wasn't just changing. It was developing a whole new taste for adventure. Recipe for disaster. The boardroom of Galactic Gastronomy Corporation gleamed with sterile perfection, a stark contrast to the chaos unfolding within. CEO Xerx Malgan, a towering centaurian with chrome-plated scales, slammed all 4 appendages on the floating conference table. Unacceptable. Xerx bellowed, causing the holographic profit projections to flicker. These human establishments are destroying centuries of carefully calculated market dominance. Our standardized nutrient paste sales have dropped 87% across all sectors. Chief Research Officer Plix, a gelatinous being wearing an executive-grade containment suit, wobbled nervously. Sir, we've analyzed their methods. It's complicated. They appear to be using actual organic matter, processed through controlled chemical reactions they call cooking. Then replicate it. Xerx's scales flashed warning patterns. How hard can it be? They're Deathworlders playing with fire and plants. We tried, sir. Plix brought up footage from their test kitchen. Our first attempt to recreate something called basic toast resulted in 3 violations of thermodynamics and a temporary tear in the space-time continuum. The video showed a laboratory exploding in what appeared to be artisanal fashion. Our scientists are baffled. Plix continued. Human recipes include instructions like pinch of salt and cook until it feels right. These are not quantifiable measurements, and their secret ingredients often include concepts like love and nostalgia. Then steal their chefs. Xerx's chrome plating began to oxidize from stress. Surely they can be bought. We tried that too. Plix displayed another hologram. We offered Chef Patel enough credits to buy a small moon. She laughed and said, "Cooking isn't about money," before giving our recruitment officer a free sample of something called Grandma's Cookie Recipe. He resigned immediately and is now running a small bakery on Alpha Centauri. Xerx watched in horror as another sales report showed Earthen Delights opening its 100th franchise. What about industrial espionage? The Syndicate of Corporate Intelligence refused the contract, Plix admitted. Apparently, their last agent developed empathy after trying something called comfort food. They're now operating a soup kitchen for disadvantaged space travelers. Desperate times called for desperate measures. Initialize Project Flavor Matrix, Xerx commanded. Sir, that's completely untested. Do it. 24 hours later, in Earth and Delight's flagship restaurant, Chef Jasmine Patel was teaching a cooking class to a mixed group of aliens when her quantum comm buzzed. Emergency alert, she read aloud. Galactic Astronomy Corporation announces launch of Authentic Earth Flavor Experience product line. Ambassador Rodriguez, enjoying his usual extra spicy pad thai at the counter, looked up with interest. They didn't. They did, Jasmine confirmed, watching the news feed. They've developed what they're calling scientifically optimized taste matrices designed to replicate human cuisine. How bad? Initial reports suggest their mathematically perfect curry caused several test subjects to temporarily exist in non-Euclidean space. The news showed footage of GGC's automated production facility, where robots were precisely measuring taste units and combining them according to algorithms. The resulting products bore names like Optimal Spice Configuration 7.3 and Calculated Comfort Food Formula. This won't end well, Rodriguez predicted, just as the first customer reviews started coming in. A Vulcanite food critics review went viral. Attempted to consume GGC's precision-engineered hot sauce. Now experiencing taste in the fourth dimension. Stars taste purple. Time flows backward on Thursdays. Would not recommend. Reports flooded in for across the galaxy. A colony of silicon-based life forms tried quantum-calibrated comfort food and developed existential envy. A hive mind sampled algorithmically enhanced umami and split into competing food critic personalities. 3 space stations reported their vending machines had achieved consciousness after stocking calculated crunch snack formula. The situation reached crisis point when GGC's flagship product, Scientifically Supreme Spice Blend, caused a temporary merger of parallel universes. In one of them, apparently, cilantro tasted like soap to everyone. Emergency meetings were called. The Galactic Health and Safety Board convened in hazmat suits. Even the Time Variance Authority expressed concern about the growing number of paradox-induced lunch breaks. Remember the corporate crisis? Rodriguez chuckled, nodding toward a particular stall. Zix's crystals chimed with laughter. The former CEO of Galactic Astronomy Corporation, Xerx Malgan, had undergone quite the transformation. After the spectacular failure of their attempt to industrialize human cuisine, Xerx had experienced what humans called an epiphany, and what station medical staff called acute flavor-induced enlightenment. Now, wearing a hand-sewn apron over their chrome-plated scales, Xerx operated humble pie and other lessons, serving dishes that combined traditional Centaurian nutrition with human comfort food concepts. Their specialty was corporate responsibility casserole, guaranteed to induce empathy or your credits back. The galaxy certainly changed, Zix observed, watching a group of quantum physicists debating the paradoxical properties of Chef Patel's newest creation. Strabdinger's soup, simultaneously hot and cold until observed. The festival had other remarkable sights. The Margolian food critics, their hive mind now hosting the galaxy's most popular cooking show, were filming a special episode on cross-dimensional comfort foods. A group of former spice smugglers have reformed and opened a legitimate chain of reformed rogues recipes, specializing in ethically sourced rare ingredients. Even the Time Variance Authority had set up a booth offering temporarily stable tacos that somehow tasted like tomorrow's lunch today. But perhaps most remarkably, At the center of it all stood a simple booth with a hand-painted sign, "Grandma's Table, all are welcome." Here, Chef Petal herself served what she called the ultimate comfort food, dishes that somehow adapted to each species' concept of home, family, and love. No one could explain how it worked, and scientific attempts to analyze it had failed spectacularly. The only consensus was that it made everyone feel better. You know what the best part is? Rodriguez said, watching various species share meals together. We've documented a 73% decrease in interstellar conflicts since the spread of human cuisine. Turns out it's hard to maintain diplomatic tensions when you're sharing a good meal. Zix's crystalline form hummed in agreement, though the Galactic Health and Safety Board is still trying to classify love as a controlled substance. Good luck with that, Rodriguez laughed. It's the one ingredient that can't be regulated, replicated, or contained. Just then, a minor commotion drew their attention. A young crystalline entity, having just sampled their first taste of emotional support enchiladas, had spontaneously begun to play music through their facets, a phenomenon previously unknown in their species. Should we regulate that? Zix wondered aloud, his inspector's instincts briefly surfacing. Let them play, Rodriguez smiled. After all, good food should feed the soul, not just the body. As if in response, more crystalline beings joined in, their harmonics blending with the joyful sounds of the festival. Other species began adding their own musical traditions, creating what could only be described as the universe's first spontaneous multidimensional food festival orchestra. Chef Patel, watching from her booth, smiled as she added a pinch of an unnamed spice to her latest creation. Some called it love, others called it magic, and the scientists had given up trying to measure it. Whatever it was, it had brought the galaxy together in ways that no trade agreement, diplomatic treaty, or scientific breakthrough ever had. Because in the end, the most powerful force in the universe wasn't gravity, dark energy, or even antimatter. It was the simple act of sharing a meal together. As the festival continued into the night, with flavors and friendships bridging the gaps between stars, species, and souls, one thing became clear. The galaxy had developed not just a taste for human cuisine, but an appetite for connection itself. And that, perhaps, was the greatest recipe of all.